Diplomats in Lebanon are trying desperately to free this group of Aussies.
Well, there's only so much a diplomats can do, of course, because the legal system does have to go through its own process. As you said last night, that hearing was cancelled at the last minute. Nothing sinister about that. We are dealing with a slow and unpredictable legal system. It hopefully will happen tonight. Why it's important that it happens tonight is because at least then people will know what they're dealing with. They'll know what charges are being laid and whether there is a likelihood of bail, and if there is bail, whether passports have to be handed over.
Pete, a series of texts have emerged overnight between the mother and Colin Chapman, who's the Australian child recovery agent. Do we know what the texts say?
Yes, well, the Sydney Morning Herald have managed to obtain these. Now, Sally did contact a child recovery expert back in Australia, not somebody who was involved in the operation. He didn't get the job, someone else did, but in desperation, Sally contacted this man, and these texts have now ended up in the public domain. As you can see here, this is a very distressed lady who's sending these texts asking for help. And I guess the story that's jumping out now is that there was a window of opportunity for the mother, Sally, and the two children to get out of Lebanon by way of using a boat. But the boat was going to cost money, and that was rejected. The idea didn't go ahead. Now, some people are looking at this today and reading the stuff and saying, Channel 9 was so mean they wouldn't even pay for a boat for the lady to get out with the kids. Channel 9 wouldn't fund this because they didn't have the cameras there, so it was no value to them. But just think it through very carefully. Just think this through very carefully. At the time these texts were being sent, there were 7 people who'd been detained in jail cells. You had Sally and the 2 kids in a safe house. They were completely safe. That's where she was sending the text from. Now, the dilemma the person in Australia had was, do we fund this operation? And in the overall scheme of things, I think it was about $150,000 to fund the operation to get Sally and the kids out. That's not a massive amount of money, particularly when you're in deep doo-doo and you're trying to save a problem. The problem was, do we then, these people who are in the jail cells were obviously facing charges of attempted kidnapping. If the kids and mum get out, they will be facing kidnapping charges, which is way more serious. So that was the dilemma, and that's why they said, no, we cannot proceed with this. Why take more risks? Let's try and contain the situation rather than make it bigger and worse.